Hi guys, my name's Seb Tudor, I'm the man on the Silver Mountain, and welcome back. Now today I'm doing my Month in Trump video for September 2017, and just like yesterday's Month in Review, we've got three things to talk about. Unfortunately, all of them revolving around Donald Trump, because that's what these videos are for. But the first one that I want to touch on was the one that came earlier in the month, which was where Donald Trump addressed the UN, and oh god. There were two things that stood out from that speech. And the first one was how Trump made it very clear that he feels that everyone is as selfish as he is and as self-focused as he is. But he also made a point of going, well, I'm going to look out for America first. That's what I'm only going to do. And you guys only should be looking out for your countries first. And that's the way that this needs to work, right? And the kind of lots of people criticise the nationalist sentiment there, and the kind of support of it, I suppose. But the thing that stood out most to me was I don't think he as a person understands any other way of thinking about things. Donald Trump is very much all about the Trump, all about himself, all about what he attaches himself to. And a lot of his supporters are the same, where they maybe have misplaced kind of national pride in things, or they refuse to allow themselves to be criticised because of the things that they attach themselves to, or they take insult and offence to things that they have, when things that they have attached themselves to are criticised or upset. As with gun laws and things that we were talking about yesterday. But the thing that stood out as a result, though, where he was talking, I'm like, you've got a lot of people who are going to be looking at that and seeing someone who's purely nationalist. I'm seeing someone who's selfish and doesn't really know what they're doing, doesn't know who he's talking to. A lot of those people in the room, yeah, sure, governments in various places are, to one extent or another, kind of good or bad in various ways. I felt that when Theresa May then stood up and kind of gave some veiled criticism of Trump leaving the Paris Climate Accord, I thought that was kind of hypocritical, considering that she's been really selfish with Brexit and very, very her control focused around the whole Brexit thing. So she's just a weak character that needs to take shots when she can. But like all of those people, to one extent or another, they need to be as removed as possible to look out for the best interests of their people. You need to have that perspective, and certain places do far better than other places. And nowhere is perfect. You can't expect perfection because it's people, and people aren't perfect. So if you've got a group of people making decisions for other people, you can hold them to a high standard, but you can't expect perfection. There are always going to be weak kind of areas and things that break down. But when it came to that part of his speech, it very much kind of made me go, like, this is the person that holds the nuclear codes for one of the most powerful nuclear arsenals on Earth. And he's going, this is me. This is me. America is me. I'm going to only look out for me. And whether you like it or not, that's probably what you're going to see. And then we had the Bombardier the trade tariffs going up, or trade levies or whatever going up as well, and all that kind of thing. We've seen this stuff, and we've known it for a while. But this, on the international stage, in front of the leaders and representatives from like just so many countries, him just standing there and going, yeah, well, we're one of the most powerful, we're one of the big boys, but we're only really out for us. Which again, when he's talking about doing things about other countries, America being the kind of guardians of justice and freedom and whatever else, it kind of stands out as a but I thought you were only looking out for yourself. So your justification for being the world's police force, or attempting to be, you know, surely that conflicts with that idea, doesn't it? Unless you're saying that you're going to pointedly get something out of this. You know, and it just made me go, why is he even allowed to speak? You know, what he's obviously not qualified. He doesn't have the perspective. And so as a result, the people that voted him in, who still stand kind of staunchly by him, like, what part of that is attractive? Yeah? Like, I can understand him going, these are American interests and that's what I'm going to focus on. But going, I'm always only going to look out for us first. And fuck the rest of you. That just, like... I don't understand how that's attractive. Because in that particular situation, it would mean that anyone in any other country, regardless of how it impacted America, you know, even if it impacted America in a positive way initially, but then there was no kind of continued impact afterwards, and it just left this void. You know, what part of Trump's philosophy on only looking out for himself sounds good? You know, we're stuck on this tiny rock. I realise that me saying I don't understand is a bit over the top, but again, it's the people that I know gravitate towards that kind of thing are the people who are incredibly isolationist. But I don't think that that's every Trump supporter. You know, I don't believe the every Trump supporter that even now is trying to stand by him even when he's done all of this silly shit and said all this silly shit. I don't think all of them are completely isolationist and wanting to focus purely on the nationalist areas of the country to kind of bring up this America only, America first ideology. You know, I can't think that many people would be that way. But hey ho, maybe I'm wrong. But again, it's the sentiments there being put forward in such a way was interesting to watch, and obviously that upset an awful lot of people. But the thing that kind of stood out to me was more worrying, because that was just a thing that we kind of got Trump was going to say. Maybe we didn't, like, I didn't necessarily think he was going to come on that strong and just like lay it out flat. But then again, this is the guy that tweets about like every little grudge and upset that he has with every little piece of news or everything that he hears. You know, he has to have his little jabs, his little opinions. He's a old man with no friends who has to purely communicate through just having kind of jabs and complaints of people and being overly familiar. So, you know, But the thing that stood out to me was when he was talking about destroying North Korea, and it's like, you really think like North Korea has been launching these weapons. There's a chance that they could at the very least hit your coast. Antagonistic speech like that, you really wonder, you know, is that to provoke? Is that, you know, like suggesting that you're capable of destroying them and that you'll happily do so? Well, fine. Does that not suggest though that then the idea of a preemptive strike against you would be a better idea for them? Yeah, they might not be able to win against you, but they can cause you harm. They can make you fear them, and so launching and attacking you straight away, you know, surely that's kind of, it's tempting fate, I feel. You know, especially considering how unstable we've seen the North Korean leadership to be more recently. You know, is that really a good idea? Tempting fate? You know, I mean, it won't affect Trump either way. He'll probably be fine in some bunker somewhere. But is it really worth gambling with the lives of people either on the west coast of the US or in other allied territories elsewhere, like Guam or South Korea? Is that really a wise thing? I mean, wisdom and Trump don't really go hand in hand, but like I think it was Rex Tillerson who was, or was it General Kelly? One of those two was sat there with their heads in their hands as he was giving this speech and just looking completely distraught with what he was saying, and I can completely understand why. Because this is, like the stuff that just pours out of his mouth just a lot of the time is just risky, to say the least. But anyway, we'll have to, we'll see how that goes on with. But we've had China sticking sanctions in against North Korea and stuff now, so we'll have to see what that does. But yeah, the way that Trump speaks sometimes is just it's almost like a sitcom, like a sketch show, like House of Cards if it was funny, and it's like it feels like some kind of weird script. It's surreal. But anyway, let's move on to the next thing that Trump decides to have a go at. We've had him just kind of verbally diarrheaing all over the UN UN leaders, and so then he comes home and he decides to tackle football and the fact that people want to kneel, and the fact that people, including the owners of some of these American football clubs, I guess, teams, have been joining in these protests where they've been locking arms or they've been kneeling or remaining seated. And it's like, as far as I'm concerned, it's a flag. Every single person that's in that stadium, to one extent or another, if all of them are American, they're all there. They were all born there by chance. Great, you're lucky. Well done. You're happy where you are. Good job. But the flag isn't all that important. The national anthem isn't all that important. The issues that these guys are trying to protest are there, and they should be discussed and they should be worked on, and they've already got the rights in law to do this. So then you've got Trump, though, and he doesn't like this stuff because he doesn't like protest. He doesn't like people disagreeing with him. He doesn't like the boat being rocked and all that kind of thing. And so he comes flying straight in and goes on like a 3-day rant about how terrible these people are, about how they should be fired, about how disrespectful they are, and all that kind of thing. And again, I'm when I was reading this stuff and when I was looking into it, and it was going around in my head, I could only ever keep thinking back to when Vice President Pence went to see Hamilton, and the cast of Hamilton all stood up on stage and delivered a message to him, urging him to kind of take care of what was going on, of the people that in the country that felt marginalized and felt disenfranchised by the whole thing. And and he dealt with that with a lot of class. Even at the time, Trump went off on a rant about it, but Pence was like, they're Americans, they had the right to do that. I appreciate them having the right to do that, and I stayed and listened. That's a thing that really I felt should have happened here. Trump going, there are these people and they're doing this peaceful protest. I don't agree with it, and this is why I don't agree with it, but they're able to do it. That would have been fine. But suggesting that people should be fired outright just because that they have decided to take part in a protest with their teams around an issue that is important to them, it's again this authoritarian mindset that we're seeing more and more amongst leaders that's doing the world no good, and that's causing arguments and causing upsets and causing breakdowns. And so what the hell? I personally don't feel that all of these protests are worthwhile. I've said that before. I've said that some of them are a waste of time, a waste of energy. But if they're all in this stadium by themselves, anyway, down on the pitch, and they have to go through this ceremony, that's the way the game starts. In which case, fine. This may as well be just a peaceful, kind of apparent way for them to protest. And then it's not like they don't do their jobs. They're there to, they get paid daft amounts of money to run around with a ball, and they still do that, and they still look to win. So it's not like they're not giving the fans what they want. It's not like they're not still feeding the industry that they're a part of and bringing huge amounts of money both into them as well as into just the sport as a whole. They're just taking advantage of the fact that they've got a platform, and they're using their rights to free expression to kind of put a point across. Mr. Trump, you've been very fond of making your thoughts known and indulging in your freedom of expression. How about you not care about other people taking the limelight for a moment and just deal with it? It doesn't mean you have to discuss it. You get to discuss what you want. You get to decide your own agenda. In which case, does it really matter if they're doing this? Really? No, I don't think it does. So maybe just leave off. But then the last thing I want to talk about in regards to Mr. Trump and his goings on is something that happened only the last few days, and that was because he's gone off on his look around of places like Puerto Rico, where they're having a really hard time after the various tropical storms have run across their entire area, and where you've got the same with other areas like Florida and the areas of Texas that were hit and so on. And so as a result, like he's had a mix of kind of going along to these places, seeing what's been going on, and yet then he's still been making daft comments. Like there's no filter with Trump apparently, and so he was making one of the things that he did when he got to Puerto Rico, and he was sat down in front of the press and so on and so forth, and talking to them about the goings on. He made a point of saying, well, we've been having a tough time anyway, and you're just making, pulling more money out of our budget, and it's like, yeah, because they wanted the storm to hit. They wanted to lose like their infrastructure and stuff like that. And he's been kind of warned that this is an issue, and yet he's focused on people are there without power, without medical assistance, without clean water in some instances, and yet he has repeatedly gone back to how the money has been involved, continually tweeting about the massive debt that the island is in. And it's like, yeah, because that's the biggest issue here, and the people that have been coming out against kind of aid being sent to Puerto Rico as well, where you've had lots of people complaining about, oh, well, they're not this, that, and the other, and it's like, well, no, it's a US territory. There are about 3.5 million Americans living there. They may be a slightly more disconnected territory than a lot of the others in the United States, but you're still responsible for it and all of the people there. So, sorry, you need to get on and help with this as much as you need to help with everything else. You're one of the richest countries on earth. Making sure that your people are all right and alive, surely that's why you were put in the position you're put in. So, making comments about massive debt, saying, oh, you're sucking more money out of us, I believe his tweet specifically said, here it is, Texas and Florida are doing great, but Puerto Rico, which is already suffering from broken infrastructure and massive debt, is in deep trouble. And it's like, yeah, it is. And it's still your territory, though. They still pay money into your system. Help. You know, again, I feel like it's this putting of money and of what Trump attaches himself to ahead of anything and anyone else. He attaches himself to America, and that's his vision of America, not necessarily the actual geopolitical body that is America and its territories. And so as a result, he goes, yeah, well, I'm for this, and Texas and Florida, they're definitely parts of America. But Puerto Rico, that's where I need to start looking at the numbers, because they don't add up in my head to the thing that I actually regard as being mine. And so as a result, though, these three things, I feel like the lesson that we need to take away from all of this, again, because this doesn't only apply to Trump, he's just the most obvious because he's so clownish and so loud all the time. But I feel like the lesson that we need to take away from stuff like this is that these leaders that we've got, Trump in particular, but also all manner of others, they are so very self-focused, and not in a good way, to the extent that they don't like to discuss things. They only want to focus on what they perceive as being theirs, and then they will look for any other reason to kind of put their heel on anything that could cause them a problem, or that doesn't necessarily mesh with what they think is theirs. And the lessons, again, are, as I've said in videos that I've done on leadership, leaders that are good leaders lead by example. You know, they don't take sides. In this case, you would hope that there would be a realization that these leaders are all civil servants. They're very highly paid civil servants because they have a lot of responsibility, but at the same time, they're just civil servants. They're there to make choices and keep things running so that other people don't have to. And this is where I was reading an article a while ago about John Major, and he still has the highest approval ratings of any prime minister within the last, I think it's 15, 20 years, something like that. Purely because, from what I remember of him and from what I've seen in various other things, especially when he's been talking more recently about Brexit and whatever else, he came in, he just did the job, he took care of the position, he took care of the country as best as he could, to the best of his ability, without making anything of it, and then left. And that's the kind of leader that we don't have anymore, because there's such this big focus on them being this big, over-the-top leader, which isn't something that we need. It's not something that's functional. And we can see that more and more as we've got reality TV star turned politician running one of the most powerful countries on earth. But anyway, guys, I'd love to hear what you guys have to say, what you guys think about this, you know, which issues around this stuff worry you the most. You know, is it Trump's childish behaviour where people disagreeing with him or people doing things he doesn't like causes him to flip out? Is it his kind of self-first approach to things? Is it the fact that anything that he either sees as a threat or that he sees as something that he doesn't like becomes a target to him? You know, is this something else? Is there another story that I haven't covered here that stands out as a thing that you'd be more worried about? Or are you completely on his side and this is perfect? You know, let us know. Anyway, guys, otherwise, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the video tomorrow. Take care. Thank you very much for watching, guys. If you found this talk interesting, then please drop us a like, share this video, and subscribe for more, and I'll see you in the video tomorrow. Take care.